You're probably sitting on the couch right now wondering if you can finally get a speaker system that fills the room without making you feel like you're living in a concert hall, that sounds amazing for movies and music, and doesn't break the bank. The hesitation is real. You've seen the glossy ads with huge horn diagrams and promises of premium home theater sound, but you also know that a pair of floor standers can dominate a living space, demand careful placement, and sometimes end up gathering dust because they're too demanding or just not the right fit for your room. If you're looking for something reliable, easy to live with, and worth the money, I spent the last couple of weeks listening to the Klipsch Reference Premier RP8000 FII in a typical family room, watching a few movies, and playing a range of music genres. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, let's talk about the kind of room where these speakers actually shine. I set them up in a 1,215-foot space with a modest 55-inch 4K TV and a subwoofer I already owned. The floor plan had a sofa about 3 feet away from the speakers, and the back wall was a concrete slab with a couple of framed pictures hanging on it. In that kind of environment, the RP8000 FII's larger 9090 hybrid Tractrix horn makes a noticeable difference. The horn is designed to project high frequencies further without losing detail, so even when I sat at the far edge of the room, dialogue stayed clear during a fast-paced thriller and the cymbals in a jazz track didn't feel wobbly. That's the practical upside of the bigger horn. You get a wider sweet spot without having to chase the speakers around the room trying to find that perfect listening triangle. Now, the woofer is a new Cerametallic design. In plain English, that means the cone is a blend of ceramic and metal, giving it a tighter, more controlled bass response compared to a traditional paper cone. In my tests, the low end was punchy enough to feel the rumble in an action movie, yet it didn't overstay its welcome. You could crank the volume for a sports game, hear the crowd roar, and still pick out the subtle string section that came in during the halftime show. For someone who likes both movies and music, that balance is valuable. You aren't forced to add a massive sub just to get the impact, though a sub will still improve the deepest notes. One practical consideration that many first-time floor stander buyers overlook is the size and weight. Each RP8000 FII weighs roughly 45 pounds and stands about 44 inches tall. They're sturdy, but you'll need 2 strong people to get them onto the floor and position them. Once they're there, the built-in dual-input terminals make bi-wiring or bi-amping a real possibility if you ever decide to upgrade your amp. For the average user, though, the standard single-cable hookup works fine and you won't have to mess with extra connectors unless you're an audiophile looking to squeeze every last decibel out of the system. Let's get into who should actually consider buying these. If you already own a decent AV receiver, enjoy watching movies with immersive sound, and appreciate a speaker that can handle dynamic range without sounding strained, the RP8000 FII is a solid match. They also work well for music lovers who want a lively, forward presentation. The Klipsch signature efficiency means you can drive them to high volumes without needing an over-the-top amp. The speakers are especially good for genres that benefit from detail, like acoustic folk, classical, or any track where instrument separation matters. Families with kids who occasionally binge-watch shows will also appreciate that the speakers stay clear and intelligible at moderate levels, reducing the need to constantly turn the volume up. On the flip side, if your living room is smaller than 1,012 feet, or you have a low-ceiling apartment where the speakers might dominate the visual aesthetic, you might want to look elsewhere. The RP8000 FII's size can feel imposing in tight spaces, and the high efficiency can be a double-edged sword. They'll easily get loud enough to be uncomfortable for close-up listening. People who prefer a more subdued, room-filling sound that blends into the background rather than a forward, energetic presentation might find the Klipsch sound signature too aggressive. Also, if you're on a strict budget, you'll likely have to allocate extra money for a capable receiver and possibly a subwoofer to get the full home theater experience, which pushes the total outlay well beyond the speaker price tag. I ran into one practical weakness that's worth mentioning. The horn's directivity can cause a slight bright spot right in front of the speaker. When I sat directly in line with the tweeter, the highs were a tad more forward, making certain vocal passages feel a bit sharp. Moving a foot or two off-axis softened that effect and gave a smoother overall tone. It's not a deal-breaker, but it does mean you'll want to be mindful of where you place your primary listening seat. Another point is that the speakers don't have any built-in acoustic damping,